Good evening presentation. I'm going to start on time and let those who come in a little bit later, if they want to see the beginning, watch the recording. But I'm zoomed out, and I know you are too, and so I want to try to be mindful. And I've said that every time, and I haven't hit my mark, but I want to give it a better shot tonight. Very important number for us right now. The number 15. We have 15 school days left until this is wrapped up. That's significant for us because actually that is approaching, and it's approachable, and it's doable. And I really want you to remember that we're talking about 15 school days left, and we have to keep that perspective in mind while we are doing all of the things that we're trying to do to bring some closure to the end of 2020 and put our new effort, continued effort, into finishing so that we can continue planning and preparing for whatever comes next. And we want to be mindful of how much new information we're going to need to absorb in the future. So 15 days, we are almost there, and it's an extraordinary accomplishment to have gone this far and have done this well. 15 days is about 15 days left of actual physical mental energy that our teachers have in the tank. And we are absolutely certain that it is about that or less for you and your kids. And we are celebrating them in such a strange kind of distant, quiet way right now, but we are incredibly impressed, continue to be motivated by the things that we're just doing together out of simple necessity. 15 days, we are close. Again, we record it, we'll send it back out to you. You can send in your questions on chat, and I will try to get them. Right now I'm having some kind of issue with my screen where I'm not currently able to see the chat, but I'll see if I can find that in a second. Sometimes it derails me. Whatever those questions are, I'll compile them after if we don't actually touch on them tonight, and share them for the next one. So I might not be able to get to chat questions tonight, but please do share them because I'll get them still. Quick reminder, and actually really important to make note, if you didn't get a chance to watch the May 1st crowning of Mary liturgy and celebration that was done by the kids in first and second grade, I'm sorry, kindergarten and first grade, and their teachers and lots of other people, it's very sweet and well done, and also a really cute nod to parents and to mothers especially. So if you didn't get a chance to watch it, go back and see it. It's on our YouTube channel that we've been using as well. But it's very cute, and the pictures that the kids drew of their moms it's incredible because it's exactly the way that I picture them too. So it's incredible art. You got to go and take a look. It says a lot about the kids in the school. Next week, as you know, as we've been preparing, will be our ERB testing for grades 3rd through 8th. And I'll say more about that in just a moment. Right now, we still need more submissions, or more submissions are still being encouraged from Ms. Yaz and Mr. Kushner for the virtual talent show. It might just be that it's one thing that you haven't got on your radar, but if you know that your kids have something that they want to share, follow all the information that the teachers have been giving you. And I want to kind of give a big shout out to the teachers and the way that they've been communicating. Their information to you is still the most accurate, the most up to date, and the most followable and important information that you're getting. So thank you for following it, and thank you, teachers, for keeping it updated. So if you have a talent or you don't have a talent, this is a great way to see if you do. And going forward, the same dates that we've been sharing with you before. We are finalizing all of our details on what we are going to do to celebrate our kids in this year, and our 8th graders especially, and to move them up and on with appropriate recognition and as much love as we can gather right now. These are the parent reminders. This really relates primarily to grades 3rd through 8th grade. Those of you who are in kindergarten through 2nd grade, you will be communicated with or by your homeroom teachers about how they will be doing their own end of year assessments, what plans they have to kind of adjust to this moment, so that we can still do end of year assessments and make sure that we have as much good actionable information from one year to the next with each grade. I really know that this wouldn't happen, actually being able to coordinate this ERBs online and still as we planned, without Jamie Mitchell. She's done an absolutely exceptional job breaking this really complex task into a lot of bite-sized pieces, both for the teachers. The kids have been practicing with their teachers. We know how we're going to do this. We have been able to work out schedules with additional readers and support for students who need additional reading support on these exams or tests, and really grateful for all the coordination and hard work that's going with that. Please make sure that your kids are rested for this. It is kind of the whole show for us in next week, is to make sure that they have just enough testing so that they can also have just enough time to relax and rejuvenate and rest their minds, and then come back in and do it seriously the next day. So please keep following all the teachers' information going forward on this. And we are as ready as we can be. And when we run into a glitch, we have the afternoons to pick up whatever kind of drops off. If you have a Wi-Fi hang up or anything like that happens, please know, and keep reiterating to your kids that you've been practicing it, but if it doesn't work, we have ways to communicate and to fix that, so that kids feel like they're still doing everything they need to do without being concerned about falling behind or anything like that. And we look forward to seeing how they do with it. I'm going to go over a few of the questions that remain the same questions. And I really realized after looking at, I got enough questions this week that I guess I thought I was surprised to continue getting, but when I go back and I look at maybe the way that I've said this, maybe I was too casual about my clarification around these kinds of questions. But especially, I really want you to understand what our thinking is right now, why, and where we're putting our hours and energy in the moment. Will presentation school be back on campus this academic year? No, we will not. May 29th is the end of the school year. We will not be back on campus, and I'll go through some of those reasons in just one moment. The other question, and I'll be able to kind of pull some of these together at the same time. Any thoughts on what classes might look like next year? Lots of thoughts on what classes might look like next year. And I'll continue to share with you some of the things that are overriding concerns and complications, the things that we can't know until we have more clear direction from anybody in public health, any clear direction from the state of California that is beyond just mentioning a phase that we are now in. And I want to clarify that, because I think it's really hard for parents to figure out what type of information you can really rely on right now, and where we're coming from. And because of that, I don't want to be obscure about this. We've made a lot of difficult decisions to do everything that we're doing right now, and our focus remains the same. Our teachers need an endpoint, our kids need an endpoint, and we don't want you lost in any more ambiguity about this. We are going to finish the year remotely. We are going to do everything that we can do to add as much meaning as possible. We are going to then let people take a break, give us an opportunity to find out what just happened, what you want to know more about, the things that we still need to get more clarification on, and work all summer long to make sure that we are as ready as we can be, given the knowledge that we didn't know anything that we knew just a handful of weeks ago. So we continue to try to be patient with that, but I'll say just a little more about that in a moment. The two questions are kind of important to kind of think of together. Some are trying to understand the state of California or Governor Newsom's comments about schools possibly being able to return in some form this school year. His own superintendent of public instruction followed that message, which was a very cautionary tale, saying that he was still quite skeptical that public schools especially would be able to begin in July. So as much as we would love to see people back sooner, we just don't have enough that makes it possible for us to convey appropriate preparation, appropriate safety. And in the last 15 days of school, it would require so many new complex steps that would require distancing kids and changing their schedule around to make it a 1 day on, possibly, and 1 day off, possibly one afternoon on, one afternoon off. It is more chaos and confusion in a time when we don't have the energy and resources and knowledge to do that. Our focus is on, as we keep saying, taking care of the education, paying attention to the kids, completing our task, and learning as much as we can, and moving on and trying to find a way to be stronger after it. We have to be fair. We have to kind of understand also that as much as some feel like they would immediately come back to school if it were allowed, and no schools are, in the moment, and there is really no discussion among any of our area schools that says that they are going to end earlier or they're going to go back to being on campus in this school year any time soon. So I just really want you to be clear that that is a date we're firm on and why it is. Additionally, there are numerous families who would not be comfortable coming back to school at this point. There is enough uncertainty about the virus itself. There is not any certainty on how we are going to be able to take care of our kids and teachers and families' health. In a way, we don't know what our guidelines are going to be, what our expectations for promising a healthful environment for a school is right now. It just isn't in our capacity to do, and I do know that you recognize that. As far as what next classes will look like next year, really important to know that with that also being said, when we're trying to be clear about when we end, as of this point, we are trying to be very clear that we plan to begin on August 19th, as we have. We want to then have the time between when we end on the 29th and the 19th of August to work over the summer together, to find out everything that we don't know yet, and to make sure that we're ready to go, and that there are no setbacks for us when we do. What we don't know also is whether or not this will need to be turned on and off at different times, or if there will be some kind of a hybrid model of education. There are plans for all kinds of scenarios on this, and we don't want to be unwise in trying to kind of guess at one of them and give you a sense that we know something that we don't. The board, the transition committee, and the finance committee are forming a coronavirus task force that has to do with reopening the school, and that work is begun. We've begun these conversations with Jackie. We've begun these conversations with committees. We are plugging Jackie and the board into other avenues to help understand and plan for something like this, and we will be much clearer with that as we get a little further with it. That hybrid model also, remember, is something that we need to be paying some attention to, in that we've had to close school before for fires, and it certainly doesn't hurt us to be able to run these scenarios to say how we might work it in any kind of a possible circumstance. One of the questions that's come up with this, and I think it's a new one for us, and it's really important to consider, is will we apply appropriate resources and find appropriate resources to make sure that kindergarten through second grade has some type of device preparation as well. And that doesn't mean that we plan on putting them in front of devices, but what we realize is we know from talking to kindergarten through second grade families especially, that an inconsistent device and the fact that kids were not necessarily immediately comfortable with for some and ready to be on a Chromebook, in Google Classroom, all of these other things. These are really good tools for us that I would be surprised if the school didn't continue going forward, because it's good practice and because these are brand new 21st century skills. And as much as we're aware of people's sensitivities about screen time, never more than now. I'm so sick of it, but we also see it as a lifeline and an educational lifeline for kids, that we can't be naive about their need and ability. Additionally, there are opportunities that we have learned through distance learning that simply have to do with the ability to share content that is applicable and approachable for young students also. And this has been one of the great parts about all of this, is just the sheer professional development experience of seeing how many different ways there are for us to bridge students, curriculum, and teachers on this. And there's just really interesting things that are happening out there. And sooner we think about that for the younger grades, the better as well. This question was shared, and I've heard it once, and I talked to some other heads who said they've also heard it maybe once or twice, and I know that it's probably being discussed. But if we had to begin next year for some reason with distance learning or a hybrid model, is there a discussion about adjusting tuition down because of this? I will say that this will be something clearly that the task force would have to consider. However, I really want to speak to the fact that everything that we're able to do in this difficult circumstance requires everybody and everything that we have to do it. And while the experience is different, it still is mission forward. It's still expected in our outcomes. And if we were to change the tuition down, it would mean making some pretty significant decisions about personnel, some significant decisions about what kind of school we can be going forward. It's a really consequential question, and we knew this going into it, that the school's financial picture is still the financial picture of a young school in its earliest years, doing really well, but getting its legs. And the decisions that we're making financially for the school right now are always important, and never are they frivolous. So if we are clear about this, we need to keep our focus on making the school continually as good as it can be, supporting it as best we can to keep it everything that it is now. And then if we had to make modifications later on, those are discussions that the board, the task force will have to take up as we go forward. Does the school have a timeline when it comes to letting parents know what is happening with school next year? I hope I tried to be clear that right now our timeline is to stick to the timeline of August 19th. As this group meets to discuss possibilities for next year, things that we need to do to be ready to open. And that requires a lot of new safety measures, and it requires a lot of new health measures, and it requires new training, and it requires new dollars that we also haven't had before. These questions will be shared out over the summer as well. But as of now, please plan on being back on the 19th. If we had to extend for some reason, some have asked, well, we would want, if we had the ability to relocate, could we redo it? I just can't tell you that now, so that you could know. If it happens and we're able to communicate that early enough for you to be in another place to still do distance learning, then we would hope to give you that information as early as possible. But as of now, August 19th, the kids are back and we are rolling. If we return to distance learning at any point next year, what changes will we make? I'm a parent in this too, and I have seen this as a parent, as an administrator, I'm a team member. We've done an amazing job doing something that we didn't plan to do. It's a great idea for us to say at the end of the year, our biggest information gather that we really need to do is from our families and from our teachers about the efficacy of distance learning, about what worked, didn't work, what could we modify, what do we need to understand better about how to schedule this, what do we need to train ourselves for better, what do we need to communicate differently. All of these things we can't leave this experience without mining that and grabbing that data, and that's going to be really helpful. So we'll be sending a survey at the end of the year that truly focuses on your experience in this last quarter, especially. So please, when it comes out, make sure that you give us your feedback and information on it. I included a document last week when I followed up on this meeting, and I missed this one. If you are interested in finding out about why and what some of the considerations and complications are around guidance for opening schools and day camps, the CDC has a good resource here that they've just created, and it's just a beginning. The interim guidance for schools and day camps gives you a sense of how many factors need to be considered as we try to think about how to bring kids back into a closer space with each other, how we recognize that our teachers are essential workers, that we need to guarantee their safety in this environment, and that's critical for us. How can we not? So please, if you're interested in looking that up, do. I can also send the link as well. I sent this as well. If you missed it and you didn't get a chance to read it, it's a fast read, 15 false scenarios. This is from the higher ed perspective. However, it shows you how many moving parts there are to consider in putting this all back on when it's off. And so take a look at that. It gives you a sense of the complexity. It also tells us if you want to be a part of any of this thinking as we go forward and maybe want to support us in some capacity, let us know, please. We're never going to say no to you volunteering your time. We continue. We had a finance meeting again this week. We are trying to be very methodical about our decisions right now in this new time where everybody's financial picture is more precarious. Ours is too, and we're guided by really thoughtful people on how we can make sure that we're doing this sustainably. We're being careful about risks, and we're being reasonable and realistic about what's accomplishable and how we need to bridge those two, the things that we need to do and can't yet do. Faculty leadership team, we're continuing to meet. We've added Jackie Gallo to these meetings. Jackie is involved in already starting to onboard with different groups in the school, and that's begun, and we're really appreciative of the transition committee guiding this process, and Jackie's willingness to really get in and educate herself and get to knowing who the players are going forward, and what the scenarios are she thinks she wants to start getting her head around too, and how to move forward. So we're following our signals, and we could be trying to respond, and we wish that we could respond to every single parent that wants something slightly different for their child at this time. And every child is experiencing this differently. There's deep disappointment that's inherent in something like this, and it's disappointing to be um, a school that can't do these things ourselves too, because we like doing them with the kids. But we recognize that we're in a difficult situation. The reason that we're doing as well as we are is because we're sticking together and we are supporting each other. And please continue to support your teachers in every way you can. Any encouragement, we're about there. You have our support, and so do the kids. Again, all of the things that we're continuing to follow. We know that if you have kind of a consistent news source, you might hear one thing over and over again. So try to understand that we're trying to kind of guide the school based on information that is actionable, that isn't a soundbite, or I heard this, or I saw a clip on this, or Facebook showed me this. We're trying to do this so that we don't have to redo it, and that's a real concern, is that our ability to do this well now means our ability to be back to our strongest place sooner. And I know that you're hanging in there with us, and that this hasn't been ideal. And I know that people's relationships with their children are changing in all kinds of ways. They're getting stronger. We're getting more experience and time with our kids. But I can also say, as a dad, I feel deeply distant from my kids over this time. And those of us who are doing this from the school angle, we haven't been paying as much attention to our own kids as we would like to. And I know that that's a feeling that a lot of us have right now. But I can promise you that the most resilient people in this entire scenario are the youngest. So please trust that they are weathering this. They will weather this. They're going to come through this and become stronger and more resilient. It's hardest on us, and it's complicated for us, and we have their lives in our hands, and we're concerned and we're worried and we love them and we're frustrated, and we want them out of our hair, and they're driving us crazy, and yet we're nervous about them and their future and their health. So I get it. We all understand why this is as hard as it is, and I'm sorry that this has been this way. 15 days to go, and I really hope that you keep that in mind. You keep the recognition behind our teachers, who simply are soldiering on and doing more and more and more to just wrap this up. And you don't see all of the hours that they're putting into this, and the disruption that they feel as well. So make sure that you recognize when you can how hard our teachers and staff are working right now. This has been really difficult for everyone. Let me see if there's anything I can find. I can't get in. Like I said, if we get questions, I'll find them after. I'll compile them and send them out to you going forward. But until then, I definitely wish you the best. It's beautiful out there, and we hope that you're finding some way to space out, get the kids outside, and you'll give them a big hug for us. Okay. Thank you, everybody.